Welcome back, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of Terrible Towel Tuesday. I am your host, SimFBallCritic, along with the Terrible Towel. Had to bring the towel out today, guys, for some extra power, as we are approaching the draft. The NFL draft is right around the corner, guys. 2 days from now, on Thursday, we will see if the Pittsburgh Steelers, who they will take in the first round. And I say if the Pittsburgh Steelers, because, there's some rumors out there, or not even really rumors, but there's some talk out there saying that maybe they should trade back and get more picks, in the second round. And I don't know how I necessarily feel about that, depending on, how everything falls, but we'll see. There's a lot of talk about the draft in terms of it being very interesting with, all of these quarterbacks that are, here, and, they're expecting there's going to be a lot of trades, a lot of movement in the first 10 picks. So we'll see what happens. But before we get into that, guys, what I definitely want to do is talk about a little bit of information that we now know of. Let's talk Bud Dupree for a moment. All right. So for you guys that don't know, Bud Dupree, they have exercised his 5th-year option, which, will keep Bud Dupree with the Pittsburgh Steelers for this year, of course, and also 2019. Now, this is something I pretty much thought that would happen, guys. I've been saying it, primarily, if you don't look at any other reason, you got to look at the depth that we have at outside linebacker right now. I mean, think about it. There's TJ Watt. And then there's guys like Anthony Chickillo, which I think, still shows some promise from time to time. He does a good job in special teams. But then you got guys who are unproven. Keon Adams. We don't know if Keon Adams is going to pan out, coming off an injury. I would expect he would, but let's keep in mind, he was a later round draft pick, which the draft picks doesn't always matter, but you got to go with the analysis there. We still don't know what he has to bring to the table. And you got a guy like Hoonigan. Again, a guy that's really way down in the depth chart in terms of, even a guy that drafted. If I'm not mistaken, Hoonigan was, he was an undrafted free agent. So, again, those are pretty much your guys on the outside. There's no re-signing of Arthur Moats. There's no James Harrison. So outside of Bud Dupree, those are the guys who are there. So I thought it would happen even if you look at a depth standpoint. Now let's talk about talent. Now this is a funny one, and shout outs to my boy Tony. Also shout outs to Leonard, my father-in-law. I know they're gonna get a kick out of this one. We have our ups and downs with Bud Dupree. Tony and I have been calling him Dud Dupree of late. And it's not a disrespect to Bud Dupree, man. If for some reason he sees this, hey, hint, hint. Guys, share it with him on Twitter. It's not a disrespect to Bud Dupree, man. I know he understands, it's all jokes. But, we're looking at numbers and we're looking at production. You got to say he hasn't necessarily been a bang yet. It's been more of a dud. Hasn't been the guy that we expected so far. Has shown flashes. But last year, we were expecting for him to have, an outstanding season. Didn't necessarily have an outstanding season. It wasn't terrible. Still ended up with some sacks, but he didn't have a lot of, impactful sacks, things that he did on his own. A lot of the things fell to him, which, listen, a lot of guys get sacks like that, but y'all know what I'm saying. It wasn't a whole lot of those impactful sacks, things that you expect, that you see from Von Miller at times and Khalil Mack and, some of the best pass rushes in the game. We haven't really seen that side of Bud Dupree as often as we would like. We've seen moments. All right, he's shown flashes. So that's the reason why we say up until now, it's been somewhat of a dud. I would like for him to get back to Bud, but I would prefer for him to be stud. I want stud Dupree. Now, do I think that will happen? I think there's potential still there, man. If you look at his makeup, you look at just his sheer size and what he actually brings to the table. He is a pure pass rusher. Got to give a shout out to my boy, Mark Rollins. He knows who he is. He mentioned this as well on Twitter. I'm going to quote him. You have to recognize as Steelers fans what Bud Dupree is. He's a pure pass rusher. He's not the type of guy that needs to be dropped out in coverage, and he's had to do that. But that's not his strong suit. We saw the same thing with James Harrison, which is the main reason why a lot of us have said, hey, man, James Harrison is probably time for him to be out of Pittsburgh because he's getting exposed in coverage. And I'm not saying that Bud Dupree can't do it, because obviously he's a little more athletic, and in length and size and even speed. He's a little, better in that regard than James Harrison in coverage, but he's still not a drop back type of guy. TJ Watt, however, has shown more capability doing that, which I love the times when we've even seen packages where TJ Watt is hovering around in the middle. I love seeing creative stuff like that. I remember seeing a package where they had Cam Hayward was standing up in the middle and TJ Watt was beside him, and they was like kind of bluffing. Love that. I love what TJ Watt actually is showing capability-wise to play in pass coverage, not necessarily Bud Dupree's strong suit. I think as a pure pass rusher in pass rush situations, I think Bud Dupree still has capability, and I think it will happen. I have to believe that way because I don't want to go into the season, or just in general, as a fan, I don't want to feel like it's not going to happen, because then I'm going to be, you know what I'm saying? You feel let down if, oh, well, we had to start the season with him, or let's say they didn't draft anybody else. You don't want to have that feeling. And I don't think that Bud Dupree has shown me a lack of ability yet. He's just not producing the way we all would have expected him to produce. But again, a lot of that is because of the way we've been running our defense. Okay, so I just want to see more impact plays by Bud Dupree. I think Bud Dupree definitely has the capability. Let's see if he gets it together and gets it done in this season. And like I said, man, I knew this was going to happen. I didn't think they were going to let him go. Not let him go, but I didn't think they were not going to pick up the option. Now, had they not picked up the option, that would have been very telling. Very telling, all right? And, and Kevin Colbert is still talking highly of him, which, of course, it's all the appropriate answer. I mean, how often do you get a general manager or a coach really say that a guy is not doing well? But I believe them. I think they do believe in Bud Dupree's potential. And Bud Dupree has already stated himself, he wants to prove to the organization, his teammates, and the fan base that they've made the right decision, and he can be the player that we all expect him to be. So good luck with that, Bud. We're waiting for it. I want to see stud Dupree. Now let's talk about the draft, man. So what I'm going to try to do here, guys, is give my quick mock draft for the first 3 rounds. You guys know all of this stuff, man, is just guessing, and some of it's who you want them to get, and some of it is who you think will be available. So I'm going to take the approach like I have been the last several weeks of guys that I think could possibly be available, and if they are, these would be the guys I would like to see them take in those certain situations. Like I said, I'll try to do the first, 1 to 3 rounds. And shout outs, I can't remember the name right now. One of the guys who says he follows my channel, salutes to you, appreciate you, man. He asked for me to do this, so I said I definitely will do it. I told him I would have him today, so let's get it done. Excuse me, guys, battling a little bit of allergies there, so if you hear me cough from time to time, please excuse that. All right, so barring no surprises. Now, what I mean by no surprises is you never know what happens in the draft. People always drop. Players always go earlier than they're expected. Players always go later than they're expected. There's always the opportunity of trade. Excuse me again. There's always the opportunity of trading up, trading down, trading out of the first round. Now, again, if you read into what Kevin Colbert said, he didn't really say that these type of things would happen, but he always gives the right answer just to let everybody know, okay, be aware that we're looking at all of these possibilities. He didn't rule out taking a quarterback. He didn't rule out trading up or trading down. But when you pay attention to who's there as far as the field, okay, let's play GM for a moment. Is there a player that's super high on their board, whether he's a need or not, that they feel like they have to go up and get? Who's that guy? They're not going to go all the way up to get a Saquon Barkley. They're not going to go all the way up to get one of the top quarterbacks, I don't believe. Again, I think if the Steelers are interested in a quarterback, I think they've definitely shown clear interest in Mason Rudolph. And that's a key thing to understand is the fact that they're showing interest in Mason Rudolph. He's a guy that potentially could still be there, as well as a Lamar Jackson. But I think from what we're hearing from beat writers and, you know, just kind of watching, you know, like they say on the Terrible podcast, Dave and Dave, they always say they play the game of where's Tomlin. If you pay attention to how Tomlin is moving and where he's been, you know, he's been to both pro days. Excuse me again, guys. Sorry, you're just going to have to deal with that a little bit as I'm battling allergies here. You know, he's been to Louisville as well as, you know, he went to Mason Rudolph's pro day. But it just seems like they're showing more interest in Rudolph if there's an interest at quarterback. Now, again, the reason why I said that's telling is because Mason Rudolph might be a guy that probably or could potentially be there at 28. You know, he could very well be swept up by somebody else, the Bills or somebody like that, you know, that picks a little later in the draft, but they're not in the top 10, if I'm not mistaken. But still, you know, you would expect maybe one of those teams could jump in there and grab a guy like that. It's very possible. So I think out of all of the guys, you know, and interest-wise, Mason Rudolph would be the guy that the Steelers are interested in. And it's very telling to see that they've really only shown interest in one or two guys at that position. So it's not to say that it won't happen, but I feel a little bit better about, okay, that might not necessarily be the first round pick, and it definitely might not be, you know, where they feel like there's a guy at quarterback that's a must-have and they move up to get him. You look at some other positions, again, I don't think they do that with Saquon Barkley. If you're talking about running back, I think there's running backs that's there. Darius Geis, we've talked about him. You know, Sonny Michel, you know, Chubb, a lot of these guys, and I didn't even realize Chubb and the other Chubb, Bradley Chubb, were cousins until I saw Bradley Chubb do an interview. That's interesting that they're cousins and they're both about to go in the draft. More than very possible that both of them could go in the first round. You know, maybe the running back slides, but that's pretty cool, man, as a family. But yeah, I don't think you go that far to get a Saquon Barkley unless they know for sure there's no Le'Veon Bell in the picture. Okay, if they don't feel like Le'Veon Bell is going to happen, I don't know. Maybe you do something drastic like that. But again, I think you can get a running back even in the first round that doesn't require you to jump that far up. So what's the next position? They're not going to do it for offensive linemen. I don't see them doing it for a defensive lineman. I don't see them doing that for a cornerback. I don't see them doing it for a safety unless, I don't know, is it Derwin James? Somebody like that. Again, there's some safeties in the draft that you expect that still will be available at 28 if you want a safety. So that's why I just don't feel like, man, looking at the positions, I mean, even inside linebacker, unless you're going up to get Roquan Smith, you know, maybe the kid out of Virginia Tech, Edmonds, I just don't see it. I don't see that jump all the way up. Now, the only jump that could happen is if you're really in love with Vander Esch, and to say if Vander Esch isn't gone by, say, round, you know, pick 15, maybe, if that's who you're in love with. But again, I think there's still other guys there that you can get. I just don't see the need and the player all around, like the all-around talent that would make the Steelers jump way up. Only person I could think of, again, I would say Saquon Barkley or Derwin James, you know, somebody like that. Just trying to look at the Steelers team and roster, but I just don't think you do it even in those positions because there's still other guys very capable that wouldn't require you to go that far up. I mean, come on, to get Saquon, what you giving up? What are you giving up? And the Steelers don't have a 4th round pick. You know, it's just, nah, I don't see it. Okay? So, who do I think the picks are going to be? Listening to Kevin Colbert just Monday, they did the pre-draft conference, and Colbert, you know, kind of changed his stance a little bit. He said there are good players at inside linebacker, where we know back in the owners' meeting, he made it very clear that he didn't think that class was overwhelming. Not a lot of impactful players. He's now changed his stance and he's saying, oh, I think the class is good. You know, it's starting to change over the last couple of weeks and as we move closer to the draft. So clearly, he's identified there's guys there that they would like. Again, the Steelers have brought in 8 inside linebackers pre-draft visits. They only brought in 24 players. They didn't do 30. Inside linebacker seems to be the position. They brought in 3 or 4 safeties. Then a few receivers, 1 running back, I believe. Nothing really eye-popping, but those 2 areas still seem to be where they're looking for depth. So I think, guys, again, who I think will be there, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is the guy I think the Steelers will actually take if he's there at 28. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers will draft Rashaan Evans. Rashaan Evans, to me, shows the most promise as far as personality. He's not as physical of a freak as Vander Esch as far as your build, but I just like Rashaan Evans' demeanor. I know there's some questions with the hamstring, and he hasn't ran. Didn't run at the pro day, didn't run at the combine. I get it. If you're nursing a hamstring, why, risk anything like that to reduce your chances of being drafted, and you have tape out there. I get it. But I think that's also the reason why some teams are going to be a little picky, and he could fall. I think Vander Esch actually gets picked over Rashaan Evans before the Steelers, and I think Rashaan Evans might be the inside backer that is high caliber, that's still sitting there at 28, and I think the Steelers go with that. I really do. Now, what I'm about to say here, guys, could be in reverse order. Steelers may pass on inside linebacker in the first round, and they may go safety. But I'm going to just keep my mock this way. Again, it's all guessing. There's no right and wrong answer. I think the Steelers go inside backer first, so I'm going to take Rashaan Evans. And I think in the second round, somebody that they showed a lot of interest in. I have a lot of interest in this kid because I think his upside is phenomenal, and he's rangy, plays the ball very well, still a little raw, but that's the type of guy the Steelers like. I think they take Jesse Bates in the second round. I have a feeling out of the safeties, I think Jesse Bates will still be hanging around 60. Now, there's an opportunity there, guys, where the Steelers could come up perhaps in the second round, because Jesse Bates is hovering right around that, they're expecting for him to go within the first, 60 or so picks. So you never know. Somebody could pull the trigger on him early if they like him. So I think if the Steelers really want him and he's there, and let's say, we're the 60th pick, let's say the 50th pick or something like that, he isn't gone yet, they might move up to get him. I could see something like that. I just don't think they're going to move really much at all in the first round. If they do, it would shock me, and I'm interested in being shocked. I'll be cool with that. So I think it's Jesse Bates in the second. In the third round, guys, I'm going to throw a curveball here. It's not really a curveball. I just think that the Steelers definitely want to add some depth at the wide receiver position. I'm a little torn with the third round because I don't know where they're going to go. They could go wide receiver. They could go running back. I'm sure there will still be some backs there. We still got to think about the future of Bell and Connor. But I'm going to say they go receiver. And I think they go with the kid, Christian Kirk. The reason why I'm going to pick him, man, good size, fairly decent speed. And let's not forget, he's a pre-draft visit. So I got to throw one of those variables in there. The other 2 picks, we know they have interest in Evans. We know the connection with him and Dunbar. The coach, the new coach on the staff that came from Alabama most recently. We already know the connection there. I could easily see them going Rashaan Evans if it comes down to that. We already know the story, Jesse Bates. They've shown interest in him. They, at his pro day, both Colbert and Tomlin had dinner with him and all, and he came in for a visit. But then another guy, again, Christian Kirk is a receiver that, they are showing interest in as well. He actually came in for a visit, and let me read to you really quick, guys. There was only a couple guys, receivers that came in for a pre-draft visit. There was Quadri Henderson, local kid out of Pittsburgh. Richie James from Middle Tennessee State. Justin Watson, also a local kid. And Russell Gates Jr. Keep an eye on him out of LSU. And then Christian Kirk. All right, so I have a feeling that if they're going to go receiver, because they brought in about 5 of those guys, so I think receiver is an area that we may go at. Not really knowing what Eli Rogers' future is holding. We don't know if Martavis Bryant will be re-signed after next year, and we need some depth there. So I think they're going to go Christian Kirk in the 3rd round. So once again, and all of this could be backwards. I mean, they could go Jesse Bates in the 1st round or Reed. They could go with any of these guys. They could go, they could go safety in the 1st round. I don't know. But my guess would be inside backer, free safety, and then wide receiver. And that'll round out the first 3 picks again. Rashaan Evans, then Jesse Bates. Then I'm just going to go out on a limb and say a guy like Christian Kirk. All right, now a few surprises to keep an eye on. I'm going to continue to say this. Keep your eye on Mason Rudolph. Don't let it surprise you if the Steelers pull the trigger there. And Colbert just re-emphasized what I've been saying as well. He just said Ben Roethlisberger was not expected to play when they took him. Ben has said he wants to play 2 or 3 more years. Sounds like a perfect time to grab a quarterback to groom while your veteran is there. If you like the kid, if you really like the kid, sounds like a perfect time to grab him. We'll see. And don't be surprised if they take Darius Geis. Those are going to be my 2 wild card picks there. If they're not going to go inside backer or if they're not going to go free safety. Quarterback, running back, could be the 1st round pick. But those are my mock draft picks right there. And guys, I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait to see who we actually get. What I plan to do, guys, I do have to travel into work that following Friday, which, my day got switched. I told you guys about that on the gaming side. But I travel into DC on every Friday. I work from home, but 1 day a week I have to travel into the main office. So what I plan to do the night of the draft, I'm going to watch it all. And I think what I want to do is a quick live stream once the pick is made and we can discuss it. And I may come on, just a little bit above or a little bit ahead the pick. And, once the pick is made, we'll do a quick live stream and get some raw reactions from you guys and my direct reactions. And we should have a little bit of fun with that. All right. But I won't be able to do it for so long because, of course, I would have to get myself ready for the next morning. But look forward to that, guys. I look forward to the draft, and I look forward to you guys' comments both here and draft night, and we'll see what our Steelers are going to do. All right, so that's going to do it, man. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Cut on that notification button so you're fully aware of the next video coming to you as well, guys. I promise it'll never hurt you to hit that like button. All right, so that's gonna do it for now. And here you go, I'm talking all over myself again, trying to rush, but that's gonna do it for now, guys. We'll be back on Thursday live so we can discuss our 28th pick overall or our trade. All right, man, I'll catch you guys later. Here we go, Steelers. See you guys on Thursday night. Peace.